What is going on, everyone? This is Drew Code Sports Talk. Yes, that is my soothing voice on this mic. We finally got it to work. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us. I am your host, Andrew Wright, and over in Clovis, California, in his living room, I think, is my co-host, Cody Johnson. Cody.
What is going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Yes, that's right. We are live. That is Drew's soothing voice on his brand new mic that we've been working on behind the scenes. You guys have no idea how long we've been working on that thing. Anyways, guys, we have a great episode. We're talking Raiders, head coaches on the hot seat, postseason baseball, and, of course, we're talking the Lakers because, again, they don't look very good. So, anyways, just preference that. Shout out to our partners real quick: SeatGeek, Fanatics.com, FNX Fit. Links in the description to find all their great products and use our promo codes. And, of course, as always, follow us on social media at Drew Code Sports Talk. So with that being said, guys, let's get started.
Take off from a break off from the weak minds. They can stay soft. You can change lives. You create thoughts. Never waste time. You got one shot. You got one life. Better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5. No mean boss. Just my life and free thought.
All right, everyone. Yes, we are back for another week of Drew Code. We were hoping to have a guest. Unfortunately, the guests were not able to be here tonight. So hopefully next week we're going to be able to get them. We're working that out right now, but really excited for that. So, we were hoping to have from the Backseat podcast. So if they're not here this week, I think we're for sure going to have them next week. It just depends on if we're going to have both of them or just one. So we'll see. But really, really excited for that. And I appreciate them for even trying to work with us. I know they were super busy today. So I appreciate them trying to work with us and trying to get on the show. But it just ended up not working out for them. So shout out to them real quick, of course. And then, Cody, before we get into everything, I did want to shout out Fanatics. Guys, go check them out. Use our link in the description, either on the video or on the podcast, on all of our social media sites, anything like that. Go check them out. They're always having great deals. Literally the NFL uses Fanatics, so just might as well just use our link. That way you can help support the show a little bit. We would appreciate that. But we appreciate Fanatics for taking us on as a partner. So thank you very much. I just wanted to bring that up. But before we get into the sports talk, Cody, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing pretty well. I was polling you earlier this morning because I had to work an overnight shift last night, and I got some sleep today, so it helped. And I've been excited to get started on the show, and I've been airing my grievances out to you about our Lakers, and then you told me about how softball went as usual, and so sounds like you guys are again on a winning streak.
Yeah.
How'd you do in that game?
I did okay. I played left center this time. Had a couple balls go my way, but bloop singles, something like stuff in the gap. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that. But I had. I don't remember what happened. I think on my first at bat I grounded out because I think it was the final out, and then my second at bat I hit a screamer down the third base line, and so I'm rounding first, heading for second because I know I'm easily on second, and all of a sudden I feel this tweak in my hammy, and I was like, oh no. Oh no. So I get to second base and I was like, okay, well, maybe it just kind of like, hit a nerve or something. And I still felt it I was getting ready to run and I could still kind of feel it tight. And then the person who was up behind me, they hit one pretty good. So I made it home easily, but I was kind of hobbling at the end and I was like, oh man. So I was trying to stretch it out, trying to drink some water. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to really finish the game. Luckily, I didn't have to hit again because I'm not sure how I would have done on that. But it sucked. I was like, man, this sucks. I hate getting hurt. And I was doing all my stretches, but I think the only thing was I didn't drink a ton of water. And so unfortunately, I'm still feeling it. My wife's been helping me out, trying to get it loosened up and whatever, taking a tennis ball to it and just absolutely grinding on my leg, on my hamstring, and I'm like, oh God. And my son is sitting there laughing. So Yeah, because he likes pain. Apparently, I don't know. He just thinks it's funny.
He's like that kid from Big Daddy.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. So, I was gonna go to the gym today, and I was like, oh, I'll just do my workout. I won't do any cardio, obviously. And my
Hmm.
wife's like, no, no, you shouldn't. You should really relax. This is how you're going to continue to never get better. And I was like, all right, I guess that means no. So, anyway, yeah, unfortunately, I'm down and out right now.
Well, I'm sure you'll recover just fine. You didn't let an ACL get you down. So,
That's true.
anyways, another thing that I've been kind of obsessed over recently, and I'm pretty sure maybe half of America has too. And I was trying to ask you about this, but you didn't have any clue. And it's about this guy in Wisconsin who's on trial right now, and he's representing himself. And every now and again, I'm trying to tell my wife what's happening, and she kind of knows, but obviously he's not watching it as much as I am. And then when we'll be at like Target, we went to Target earlier today, and I was just shouting out objection, speculative, like half the time there, just because I couldn't stop laughing when I heard him say this. And that's like what he always objects to, even though they're just standard questions, and he's going against obviously a legit attorneys trying to represent himself. So it's just been it's a sight to behold, I'll say, and I cannot stop watching it. Like, I think my TikTok For You page is forever messed up now because of him. So, yeah. So, anyways, it's just been interesting. But nevertheless, though, here we are back talking about sports, Drew.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Well, no time like the present, Cody. Let's get going. All right. So there's a lot that's going on in the NFL. Usually we start off by talking about the Raiders, and then if we have time, we'll talk more about stuff. But the Raiders had a bye week this week. And then I'm sorry, last past week. Now they were playing the Texans, which is kind of a scary game, of course. But there was a big trade that happened yesterday. Christian McCaffrey was traded from the Carolina Panthers to the San Francisco 49ers. And now the Niners are absolutely stacked if they stay healthy. And I love the Twitter, all the Twitter messages going, the Niners are really trying to get the best IR team they possibly can, which is not completely far-fetched. So I will give them all that. But Cody, this is a big trade. I mean, I saw NBA 2K actually tweet out. They're like, how would you put this in basketball terms? And the first thing that came to my mind was like when Ben Simmons went to the Nets, but I was like, no, because I think Ben Simmons at that time, he had way too much turmoil. And then what came to me next was when the Lakers traded for Anthony Davis. And I think that's it, because I think we always talk about it. If Anthony Davis stays healthy, they won a championship, okay?
Right.
So the same thing goes with, in my opinion, Christian McCaffrey. If Christian McCaffrey can stay healthy for the 49ers, this is a strong team, and a lot of people are now considering the 49ers as the favorite to get to the Super Bowl for the NFC. So, Cody, I'm going to ask you that. Are the 49ers now the favorites to win the NFC?
I'm going to say, and I'm going to preface it too by my preseason favorite for the NFC was the Eagles. I'm actually going to say that I think right now, yes, the Niners would be the NFC favorites. And the reason why is because when they're healthy on defense, they have a scary defense. Their secondary just creates a lot of problems, very similar to the Eagles defense. And then also too, they have Nick Bosa who rushes, and they have a really good, obviously an all-pro linebacker in Fred Warner, who's on the middle of the field that's able to plug a hole or get to the quarterback. So they have an outstanding defense. And not only that, but this 49ers team has been to the Super Bowl before, and they made a deep playoff run last season in the NFC Championship. And of course, blame it on Jimmy Garoppolo why he didn't get them to the Super Bowl again. But now you add another dynamic piece, another weapon for him to use, and a hunger that they're all trying to prove something. Kyle Shanahan's trying to prove that he's not just some flash in the pan coach. Jimmy Garoppolo is basically trying to audition for other teams next season to get him in a favorable starting job. And I think that this does kind of help propel them to be top in the NFC, just because they actually, believe it or not, the NFC West is not that strong a division as it was last year. You have the Rams that don't even look like a playoff team. You have the Cardinals that are still trying to figure out who they are, even though they just won Thursday Night Football. Then you have the Seattle Seahawks, who are surprising everybody and, putting on a nice little win streak. But I think we can all agree that might not last. And the NFC in general is a weak conference. So the 49ers, if they don't get in by division, they're definitely getting in by a wild card, because what other team outside of, the division winners are going to be better than the 49ers? So I will say that this, in my opinion, will put them as favorites. I still think I like the Eagles team a little bit more, just because I like their continuity a little bit more. But I mean, no doubt 49ers are an even scarier team after yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. This is a good team. I mean, this is a team that can move the ball whenever they want, whenever they need to. We're talking about George Kittle. A lot of people are talking about, George Kittle's production has gone down because they've had to keep him to block because Trent Williams went down. Well, this actually may open it up a little bit, because then you're going to have to worry about the run, and then that's where you start doing the whole leaking the tight end out, on a little delay or whatever, and have a cheap pass that, George Kittle can break, 5 tackles if you need him to. Deebo Samuel isn't going to have to be the running back as much. He can just be a plain old receiver. Brandon Ayuk just came off of a fantastic game. He's still a danger. He's still a threat. He's still one of the guys that I think is going to be really good this year. And then you add Christian McCaffrey, and then Elijah Mitchell when he comes back. Now McCaffrey is not the the mule here. He's not the guy who is constantly being used and constantly like, hey, we need you to save us here. The Niners are stacked, and their defense is also very good. So this is a really scary team. I'm really worried. I got to be honest with you. I really like the Niners coming in even without Christian McCaffrey, and I like them even more now. I think they are, in my opinion, I think they're the favorites, because if I were to put the Eagles and the 49ers against each other, I'm going to pick the 49ers probably 9 times out of 10, just because that defense is ridiculous, and I think that offense can pick apart that Eagles defense. And I think the Eagles are talented, but Jalen Hurts still doesn't scare me quarterback-wise. I think he scares me when he's running the football, but he's still learning the game, and Jimmy G knows this offense inside and out, and I think he will be fine. So I would pick the 49ers in that.
Yeah.
All right, Cody. So kind of talking about Carolina already. They let go of Christian McCaffrey. They let go of Robbie Anderson for a 10th grader right now. It was like a 7th round pick for like a 2025 or 2026 something. It was something like ridiculous like that. And and I saw someone tweet, they're like, literally Robbie Anderson was traded for a 10th grader. And I died. I laughed at that I'm still laughing at that. So there's other players that are being rumored in Carolina to be, obviously be traded or, go to a better place. So Cody, who do you believe is the next player out of Carolina?
I think it's the obvious one would be DJ Moore. I think obviously he's an offensive weapon. NFL is obviously an offensive driven, league. Clearly, I mean, yes, they want defense, but clearly offense is what gets you to win these games. And I think DJ Moore is the next on the list of players to get traded. I think DJ Moore is probably going to end up in some sort of AFC team. I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up like on the Bills or something. I know the Bills have like Gabe Davis, but Isaiah McKenzie, he's in and out because of injury. Jamison Crowder, he's also out because of injury. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the Bills make a play for him, because getting a versatile, weapon like that who can potentially run the ball and take some carries away from Josh Allen, which I think is what the Bills should do. If I were them, I would not run Josh Allen 15 times a game. I think they're asking to get him hurt. And I fear that if he gets injured, Case Keenum is not getting this team to the playoffs, or even if they do get in the playoffs, he's not getting him anything past there. with this offense. This offense is definitely focused on Josh Allen, his running ability, and his arm. But I would taper down the run actions for him, and I would get a receiver that's willing to take some of those Deebo Samuel type plays, where you can either use him as a running back, receiver, some sort of versatile weapon in that sense. So I think DJ Moore would be the next one to go. I think he would end up on the Bills. I think the Bills make the most sense.
Yeah, I mean DJ Moore is not a bad pick. I would say Brian Burns, the defensive end that they have. I think a lot of teams right now. Listen, if you're a contender, you know what your weaknesses are and you know what your strengths are. And if you're a contender and you have a pass rusher, you need two now. Like, that's like a must in the NFL now. I mean, that's why the Raiders went after Chandler Jones, even though we had Max Crosby. We needed another guy. And, right now hasn't been fantastic, but it has been a little bit of a help. I feel like that's why Max Crosby has been getting a little more looks at the quarterback. The Niners, they have two guys. The Chargers, they have two. I mean, they went and got Khalil Mack, and they already had a Joey Bosa. You know what I mean? So this is why teams are going after pass rushers, because you need at least two. I mean, the Rams went after Von Miller last year. That paid off phenomenally. So this is why I believe that Brian Burns is a guy. He's a guy who's a pretty good all-around defensive end. So he's not going to be the best pass rusher, but he can also stop the run, and he can get to the quarterback. It's not like he's never getting to the quarterback. I'm just saying, he is a versatile player. He is a guy that you could use. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the Rams went after him, because I feel like without Aaron Donald, I'm not really scared of that defensive line anymore. So I think Brian Burns, you add a guy like that could really help them. And then you can really move around Aaron Donald a little bit more how they like to, and then go from there. So for me, I think Brian Burns really helps out. Yes, DJ Moore, of course, he's going to be a guy who's also going to go. I'm not saying he's not. I just think the next guy is going to be Brian Burns, because I don't think he's actually going to be as of a steep trade as like a DJ Moore would. So that's just kind of what my thought is. So.
Yeah, I mean, Burns, though, is only a fourth-year player, and I think he's still on a rookie contract. He could potentially extend. I'd be surprised if the Panthers did move off from him, just because he's a young defensive piece. And I mean, you mean a couple of draft picks, and you might have a solid team with a good, a respectable head coach. So I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he goes for a higher quality asset. I mean, any team is willing to pay whatever they want to get the player that they feel like is going to make their team better. And who knows, maybe they can finesse a second round pick out of him. I mean, he's a young up and coming linebacker, defensive end that could change the dynamic of a defense. So, and clearly, like what you mentioned with the Rams, I don't know how many draft picks they have left, because they kind of got rid of a lot of them, but I wouldn't be surprised if some team that's trying to make a last-minute push does secure something, maybe the Giants or Cowboys. I know that they're trying to fortify their defenses too.
So I did want to pose this question, Cody, before we get into the head coaching question. I want to talk a little bit about Raiders, and I'm not talking about the upcoming game. The Raiders do need something to add to their team. Obviously, the 1-4 start isn't fantastic. We actually, for being 1-4, I feel like Raider fans feel okay about being 1-4 for the most part, because we look at the team and go, okay, this team is good. Like, we were literally 5-4 possessions away from being, 5-0. So I don't think we're panicked yet. Maybe it'll come soon. Who knows?
Yeah.
But the Raiders need to go after someone. We're talking about the trade deadline. So who do you think the Raiders should go after before the trade deadline?
So I'm going to give you two, and I think the one that one of them I'm going to tell you is probably we have the same one. I'm going to say it's Roquan Smith with Chicago. I know that I think you tweeted out that you feel like we should go after him. And again, because of Patrick Graham being the former defensive coordinator for Chicago Bears, it makes a lot of sense. It would definitely help our defense. I know that that's not our primary need. We definitely need more depth at the secondary position at cornerback, but I feel like with Diablo Divine, I think, or Divine Diablo, excuse me, I believe that we need to get a solid, like alpha type of linebacker that's going to command the defense. And I think that's Wokan Smith. We need to put him in there. And I think he's going to change the dynamic of our defense, especially the run stopping. He's a really good run stopper. I'm gonna just say I know he's not the greatest pass defender, but he will be able to get to the blitzing holes. He's going to be able to create that pressure up the middle, which is what we don't really have. And Chandler Jones hasn't really been that guy for us. That's, on the opposite side of Max Crosby that we're hoping. So I feel like if we get Smith and we get somebody that can penetrate the middle and kind of collapse, the line a little bit and move that line of scrimmage back towards the quarterback rather than it just kind of separating, which is basically what it's been. I would much rather have that, because I think if we can eliminate the time that quarterbacks have in the pocket, it'll give our cornerbacks an opportunity to stay on their defenders. And what happens is when we don't have a pass rush that stays to the quarterback for longer than 5 seconds, all defense breaks down. The wide receivers get open, quarterback gets out of the pocket and creates a play. I mean, that's exactly how Patrick Mahomes beat us. That's how Kyler Murray beat us. We've lost the majority of our games because of that. So I definitely feel like that we need to fortify our defense in that front. Second player that I would think I wouldn't be upset with if the Raiders win after is actually DJ Moore, because of how versatile he is. I would like to have him on the team. Hunter Renfrow just for some reason hasn't been that receiver. I'd like to have another receiver that is opposite of Devontae Adams, or somebody that could be very versatile, whether that's, creating a couple more running opportunities to give Josh Jacobs relief. Again, somebody that can run in the slot in case when a Renfrow isn't available. Mac Hollins is a solid second receiver, but I really feel like that DJ Moore could create that separation in the middle and open up the offense a little bit. So I would be happy if the Raiders went after a player like DJ Moore for the offense as well. If it's not a defensive adjustment or in that respect, I would be okay with like maybe going after a DJ Moore as well.
Yeah, I don't hate the DJ Moore one. I didn't really think about that just because we have to trade a lot, and I think our offense, I mean, as you said, Hollins, I mean, he's okay at 2. I think he's a better 4 receiver. I mean, I don't think he's a really good slot guy, and he's not really a guy who can create a ton of separation, but he is a big receiver, and he's had some big plays. So, I don't want to talk smack. Excuse me, I don't want to talk smack about him because he's been actually a lot better than I think a lot of us thought. Listen, I wrote 4 names down.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go through them really quickly. I have excuses for all of them, so no worries. You said one of them, Roquan Smith. Listen, this kid is young. He's on his last year of his rookie contract. I know a lot of people are like, well, he's looking for $20 million. Okay, well, that doesn't mean that we have to trade for him and re-sign him. We can trade for him and use him for this year, and then we'll see where we're at from then. But I think it would be worth, a second-round pick or a third-round pick for him, and maybe, a player or whatever, because I think Roquan Smith, exactly what you said, he may not be the best pass defender, but he is a guy who's going to put his guys in the right situation. He is a guy who is going to say, hey, you go here, and that's exactly where they should go. He is a smart football player. He is a guy who is not afraid to make a tackle. You get guys from the Chicago Bears defense, for some reason, when you're in Chicago, you know how to play defense. And listen, this kid knows how to play defense, okay? This guy is ridiculous. I love watching him play every single time. I have a friend who is a Bears fan, and he goes, man, why does he want to leave Chicago? He's like the epitome of Chicago Bears defense. And I'm like, dude, I know, man, but you got to win. Sometimes you get guys who want to win. So I'm with you. Roquan Smith is probably one of my favorite guys I would go after. Again, it's not a need. It's not a position that we're dying for, but I feel like we need some good leadership, and Roquan Smith is a great leader. Then I have Kareem Jackson on here. I think the Broncos are going to be sellers, and Kareem Jackson, although he is a safety, okay, and we don't necessarily need safety help. I think there's a lot of talk that we might trade Jonathan Abram, and if you could get a Kareem Jackson, even if it's just for this year, he is a veteran guy. He is a guy who knows the AFC West first of all. Secondly, he is a guy who is a beast at coverage and at tackling and at runs. He is a complete safety. This guy doesn't get talked about a lot, and he should, because he is one of my favorite players on defense. Is when the Raiders have to play certain teams. When we play the Broncos, I always want to know where 22 is, which is Kareem Jackson. So I think that would be another veteran guy who would put his guys in the right situation. Another guy, actually, this guy is from the Carolina Panthers. Matthew Ioannidis. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm not even going to really try any further than that. But this guy is a defensive tackle. We need help up the middle, and this guy would really help. He's a solid player. I don't think he's like fantastic or this great defensive tackle, but he would help fill a need, and I think that would be something that we could really use. And I think we could get him on the cheap, to be perfectly honest, because the Panthers are just trying to get rid of everyone they have right now, and we would gladly take him because that is a need. I think if you got him, you could go after another guy. You could go after an offensive guy or a Kareem Jackson or Roquan Smith, and I think you would be able to do both deals easily. Another guy I did want to bring up, one guy that I've been trying to push for a while, is OBJ. The reason I say OBJ is him and Davante Adams were flirting with each other last year when Davante was in Green Bay. Listen, I know. Oh, it's Green Bay. It's Aaron Rodgers. That's why you wanted to go there, and then he wanted to play with... Okay, well, you don't think Davante is really going to back his guy up and be like, hey, you know what, Derek? He's pretty darn good, too, man. Why do you think I came here? Yeah, the money does help, of course, but listen, this kid is the real deal. He's going to get you the ball, and I think what OBJ learned is he just is going to be himself. He learned that from being in sorry, my beeper's going off. He learned that in LA when he was with the Rams. All of a sudden, he just learned how to get open. And listen, as much as everyone wants to talk smack about Josh McDaniels and he's not been the greatest and whatever, I agree with you. But he is an offensive-minded guy, and he has proven. Mac Hollins is kind of thriving right now in our offense. And if you're saying that, and then we're saying that Hunter Renfro's kind of struggling, Darren Waller, okay, these guys are kind of going through injuries as well. So let's pump the brakes on saying that they're trash. But at the same time, if we do need a little bit of help, I think OBJ, he's a veteran guy. Now he knows what he wants. He's not going to be a nuisance in the locker room because he knows that's not going to work. And he wants to play with Davante Adams, and Davante Adams wants to play with him. So why not come to the Raiders? And you could get him on the cheap, and you sweep him up from going to Kansas City, who everyone thinks there is where OBJ is going to go. So I just think it would be a smart move. I know it's probably not going to happen because, again, it's not a need for the Raiders. But those are like four guys I would really seriously target. And I love your DJ Moore. He would be probably a number. He'd probably be number 5 on that list. All right, guys. So let's take a break, Cody, and when we come back, we'll talk about the MLB postseason, and we'll have a little NBA talk. So, hey, stay tuned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Oh, sorry. I'm still thinking that I'm in my Hornets announcing voice.
Yeah, that was
I
actually
miss
a
it.
really good homecoming game, and you're right. You do have a unique announcer voice, so
I miss it. I miss doing it. Honestly. Clark was telling us that he was at a game, and I was like, on a Friday night, and I was like, maybe it's a high school game, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, oh man, I wish I were going. And I know this week is a tough game because they're going against Roosevelt High School,
oh yeah,
who their head coach is Dwayne Wright, and I don't know if you remember Dwayne Wright. Does that sound familiar to you at all?
yeah, a little bit.
Okay, he was a running back for Fresno State.
Oh, that's right.
I want to say it was the year it was with David Carr, but I'm sorry, I think it was David Carr / Paul Pinniger,
Mm.
those quarterback years, and he was a beast, and he's gotten that Roosevelt team. He's got them going pretty well, and so I was like, man, I really want to watch that. Really want to watch that game, try and meet them maybe,
Uh-huh.
and they're in Roosevelt, and we're gonna record, and I was like, probably not. I can't do that right now.
Is there any
But anyway.
updates on Hornets basketball?
No, not yet, not yet.
Okay.
I gotta do some paperwork anyway, so I probably won't know that until later. But anyway, so Cody, let's talk about the MLB postseason. I was kind of hoping to have Clark and Ethan on here for this topic, but that's all right. Hopefully we have a little bit more to talk about when we have them on next week. Padres and Phillies. This is a interesting series. I listen. The Phillies went up 2-1 today. They went up 2-1 in the series. So, they look like a. I don't want to say it, but they kind of look like a veteran team, which is kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really a veteran team. Like they don't really have too many guys who've been there, done that. Kyle Schwarber is kind of a guy who's done that. Bryce Harper's been in the postseason, so he kind of knows what to expect. So he's somewhat of a veteran, but a lot of these other guys, they really haven't seen anything like this. And with the Padres, we felt like this team was absolutely stacked, and they just seemed to really have trouble scoring runs. Game 2, they had no trouble scoring runs, but then all of a sudden, Game 1, Game 3, they're really hurting. They're getting guys on base, but then they're hitting into double plays. And the Phillies aren't that great of a defensive team, so it's been a weird series. I was talking with my friend. I was telling him, I said, I think the Padres have a better pitching rotation. I think they have a better bullpen, but I would say a scarier lineup, I would probably go with the Phillies just because you have Bryce Harper, you have Nick Castellanos, you have JT Realmuto, you have Kyle Schwarber. Now, none of these guys are scary when it comes to just getting an everyday hit, but these guys can go yard at any point in time. JT Realmuto, he's a guy who is he's a average hitter, but he also is a guy who can hit for power as well. So he's one of those few guys. And Bryce Harper, so far this postseason, has been hitting for average and also for power. So Harper has been a stud. And then the rest of this lineup for the Phillies, I mean, Alec Baum, he's been hitting well. Gene Segura has kind of stepped up, which is kind of shocking. I thought he was pretty much almost done. So some really talented players for the Phillies. This is a really good team. They're coming in, honestly, in my opinion, as one of the hottest teams. But it was hard for me to say I'm going to pick the Phillies just because the Padres just beat arguably the best team in baseball in the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, I feel like it was a big-time emotional win. So when you talk about that can take a lot out of you when you go into another series. We saw that with the Dodgers last year when the Giants and Dodgers faced off in the postseason. The Dodgers ended up winning, but they had a cost. I mean, they were gassed. A lot of their bullpen was done. Their starting rotation was pretty much done, and they ended up, their bats kind of got really stale because they had put so much into trying to win the series against the rival Giants, where they just were kind of gassed. And I kind of feel the same way about the Padres. I saw the win with the Padres, and I was like, man, that team, I mean, they did really well. They deserved that win. But
Hmm.
then I was kind of thinking about it and looking at how the Phillies just basically stomped on the Cardinals, and it was kind of like, this might not be the Padres' year, unfortunately. It should be.
Hmm.
But I think that Dodgers series really took it out of it. So I'm actually going to sit here and say I believe the Phillies are going to win this series just because I think they're the hottest team right now, and I think the Padres, it took a lot out of them to beat the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to argue with that. With the Phillies, I think obviously they found a hit streak in them, and I think a lot of it is contributing to not only did they have a really productive series against the Cardinals, of course, they also knocked off the defending World Series champions and the Braves, so that just catapulted their momentum even more. Um, and another thing too is like the Padres, Joe Musgrove, he needed to hold some runners. He unfortunately gave up 4 in this game, and it didn't even blow up into a big lead, but you can just tell in the Phillies game they had the momentum going for them. And Kyle Schwarber, he is hitting 400. Harper's hitting over 330 right now. You look over at the Padres, Juan Soto's barely hitting 180. Machado's at 230. Their players that they traded for that they're really banking on really driving the ball or not connecting to it, which is the unfortunate part. And I think too, this goes to your credit a little bit, and not to at all take away what the Padres have done, considering like they traded away a good portion of their team. They got a really good player. They kind of lost their way with the whole Tatis distraction. They rallied around that, made the playoffs. They beat the Dodgers to get to where they're at. So all the credit to them. And I do think that, this is just kind of disappointing. You can tell they could use someone's energy like a Tatis here to kind of rally them, to kind of get them to find some life, just because, when they're down, you need somebody that's going to keep it fun, that's going to, keep your energy up. And it just seems like that they are already down on themselves. And, they're in a slump in the worst time, but, they go home tomorrow. And so we'll see if they'll do it. I'm going to just hold out on faith in the Padres just because I think that they have the better players. It just takes a couple of swings, maybe just a little bit of contact to switch it around. And I think that their starting pitching is better than the Phillies. I don't anticipate the Phillies pitching to keep shutting down the Padres offense like it is. I do think that they'll find some sort of magic. They are in a tough battle right now. They're down a game. They've got to, win a couple of more. And I believe they got to go back on the road and win one to even win the series if they want. So it's going to be a tough one for them. I'm going to hold out on hope because I predicted that they'd be in the World Series anyways when we did our predictions last week. So I'm going to hold out on it. But, just the unfortunate thing is they have all these players here that contributed, and they just need some sort of spark. It just takes one rally, one hit, something to just kind of get everyone moving. And I think the Phillies, though, they're just running on a high right now, which it's hard to cool them down. I mean, they're probably the hottest team in the last month, which is dangerous when your team heading in the postseason.
Yeah, listen. I don't want to take anything away from the Padres because, as a Giants fan, we appreciate you kicking the Dodgers out and having all the Los Angeles Dodgers slander. I'm all here for it. I'm here for it. We love it. But as a Giants fan, I have to root against the Padres as well. So, but
it's not personal.
Listen, I agree with you. I think overall the better players are in San Diego, but I think right now they're really benefiting from their 2 ace pitchers, and they had another nice outing from Ranger Suarez, who has come out of nowhere and has been phenomenal. And then Zach Wheeler had a really good really good start. Even Aaron Nola was he had a really good start. Just unfortunately they ended up losing that game. So I don't know. I just think that they're really benefiting right now from really good pitching. But I if I were to pick, who has the better pitchers, I mean San Diego, no question. But right now they're not really stepping up, which is unfortunate. And this is what's so dangerous about that Phillies team is, when your pitchers aren't on it like they normally are, they have an off day. This Phillies team will make you pay for it, and so far they have, and that's why they're up 2-1. So, all right, Cody. The other CS championship series is in the American League between the Astros and the Yankees, which is basically the most hated baseball teams in America, are going against each other. I would, as a Giants fan, I would put the Dodgers up there, but there's too many Dodger fans who love the Dodgers, so it's unrealistic, unfortunately. Darn. But anyway, that's so dumb. Anyway, so the Yankees have really struggled so far. I have this fly who is bugging me right now. So the Astros are dominating, and the Yankees, absolutely struggling. The Yankees, they're just getting beat up left and right. There was a collision with Aaron Hicks, who ended up going out of, I think it was game 1. It might have been game 2. I can't quite remember, but it's just unfortunate, man. Like I saw something. I was reading a story on one of the Yankees writers was kind of talking about like Aaron Judge might be gone. Like he might be gone after this year, especially if they lose the series. And I was like, that's kind of definitive. Come on. And as I was reading, they're showing like, here's the post game on Alex Bregman hitting a home run, and a lot of people didn't think it was going to go out, and all of a sudden it went out. And so, the manager saying, well, it was because the roof was open in Houston. And it's like, okay, whatever, man. And then a couple of like the pictures are like saying, oh well, he knows he didn't hit it right, and blah blah blah. And I guess Aaron Judge hit kind of a similar pitch, and he went the opposite way, or just missed it or whatever. And so they asked him about it after the game, and he was like, oh, I just missed it. I just hit it in the wrong part of the park, and unfortunately wasn't able to get it over the fence. And it's just like the answers are 100% night and day. Like it's crazy that this guy who has all this pressure on him, and then they're asking him these stupid questions like, well, how come you couldn't hit it out? And he's like, I just didn't hit it there. I hit it in the wrong spot, I guess. Like,
they're questioning his power to hit a home run.
Like,
he only crushed 62 this year.
Yeah, exactly. And then the manager is, which I think is a dumb response by a manager. He's like, well, it's because the roof, it's open. Give me a break, guys. Come on. And if I'm Aaron Judge, it's like, this is why we can't get over the hump. Like, we buy all these players and we get to the postseason, but what do we do in the postseason? We continue to lose. And so if I'm Aaron Judge, I honestly thought by him getting to the ALCS with the Yankees, I was like, I don't think he's going to leave the Yankees. You can arguably say that, hey, listen, I can get to the World Series. We just need a little bit more time, or we just need that one player to come to the Yankees. But after hearing all that, it was kind of like, especially if they get swept by the Astros, it's kind of like, yes, they're in the ALCS, but it's kind of almost like they're nowhere close to getting to the World Series, in my opinion. Yeah. And if I'm Aaron Judge, I really have to think about that this offseason. So,
and you got to think too. Sorry, not to cut you off, but you got to think too. If Aaron Judge leaves the Yankees probably regress to a non-playoff team.
Yeah,
he's a huge reason why that offense runs the way it does, and it's his bat and his bat alone of where they get their offense. And yeah, they have some good pitching, but he has some power behind him. He changes a lot of lineups when he's in them, and if the Yankees lose him, Stanton is not even as valuable as Judge is, and yet they're somewhat of similar in power. But just Aaron Judge this year just had an MVP type season where not only was he connecting 62 home runs, but he was batting over 300, and he drove in 100 plus runs or whatever the number was. I just think that this Astros team is they're just on another level. Dustin Baker has got these guys always playing hard, always playing competitive. This is the 6th consecutive year that they've made it to the Conference League Championship. So it's not a fluke, guys. Like, this Astros team, had it not been for the scandal of sign stealing, this could arguably be like one of the best like ran organizations in baseball, just because they're constantly winning. Former World Series champions, and they always seem to be in the hunt for it, even though in the regular season they kind of grind it out in like the first month or two, and then after that they pull it away, and their pitching isn't what stands out of the page outside of Justin Verlander. And their hitting is functional. I will say it's not something that's going to blow your socks off, but when it gets hot at the right time, when it's about September, October timeframe, and right now they look like the best team in all of baseball. In my opinion, if they met with the Dodgers in the World Series, they probably would have handed the Dodgers their backside. That's how well this team has been playing, in my opinion. I mean, they just seem to be firing on all cylinders. But I think the Yankees, they're done with the season too. Like, I think they got lucky in beating the Guardians. I mean, they did have to come back from being down a game, and so they had to win 2 consecutive games in a 5-game series. But I was saying that they looked flat playing the Guardians, and they almost fell asleep on the Guardians to lose that series. So they were lucky just to even get out of there. And it didn't take much. It just took one game from Aaron Judge to kind of look like Aaron Judge, and then a subpar hitting game from him again the following day. And that's how they got over the Guardians. And it wasn't anything more than that. I mean, a couple of homers here and there, but even still, like, they didn't have the momentum, they didn't have the drive, and it doesn't look like they have it again in this series.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. Cody, I did want to touch on this real quick. All of our exes live in Texas, and I know you're like, what in God's name? Why are you saying that? Well, there was a story out today where Bruce Bochy signed with the Texas Rangers. And so the last, the few of our former managers, Dusty Baker is in Houston, and now Bruce Bochy is on the Texas Rangers, which I think is in Austin. I think this is where they play.
I thought it was in Arlington.
It's in Arlington. You are correct. My bad. So all of our exes live in Texas. No, I was seeing. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Giants Twitter, because when anything happens, I have to go on Twitter, because some of the most funniest stuff I ever see is on Twitter. Yeah. And so I was watching that, or I was looking at it, and a lot of Giants fans are saying, "Hey, looks great, glad." A lot of people are saying, Brandon Belt is probably going to go with him, which I would probably say is probably a good bet. And here's the thing: a lot of people are there. I did see a few like, "Oh man, now we're gonna see what we missed out by letting him go." Listen, he wanted to retire. He was out of baseball for 3 years. Okay, it's not like he just left last year and decided to come back. It's not like we just lost him. What happened is he retired, probably got the itch, probably had nothing else going on, wanted to do it. So the only other thing though is a lot of people are like, "Oh man, he's gonna be like the guy in Texas." This is my issue with Bruce Bochy right now. Bruce Bochy is an old school manager. Okay, so he is a guy who doesn't really focus on the analytics. He'll use it to his advantage, but he's going to be a guy who isn't going to be beholden to it. Now, the guy that we have right now, Gabe Kapler, he is a big analytics guy. And let's be honest, the team that we had last year should not have had 107 wins. Shouldn't have. And we did. Okay? Bruce Bochy could never get us to 107. All right? Now, I'm not saying that's the end-all, be-all, but what I am saying is Bruce Bochy had a interview not too long ago where they asked him about analytics, and he said, "I don't really use it. I'll use it sometimes in certain situations when I'm not quite sure what to do, and it'll kind of like push me over the edge on one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I'm kind of just going off of what's happening during the season." What is baseball doing right now? Baseball is analytics galore. Okay? I mean, Houston Astros are one of the best teams to be doing the analytics, the money ball, as a lot of people call it. The A's have done it for years because they have no money. So they just end up having to use these tricks. And again, like I said, the Houston Astros basically perfected it, also cheated. But that's beside the point. I mean, they're really good at it, and right now
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing what happened. The Giants have to kind of do it. As much as they get more money than the A's, there's no question. But at the same time, we're not this, huge, rich franchise like, the Yankees or the Dodgers. We are a team that I would say is probably middle of the road when it comes to money. And when you talk about that, you kind of have to use these tricks. Gabe Kapler is a guy who will use these tricks.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Bochy is not. And here's the other thing: the Rangers, they haven't been viable for a long time. They went and spent out a ton of money on Corey Seager when they already had and then they signed Marcus Semien, who was a shortstop for most of his career. Then all of a sudden they're saying, "Oh, we're going to move you to second base." So this is what, and I hate to say this because I love Bruce Bochy. I'm not saying he's a bad manager. I'm not saying he's going to be terrible. But Giants fans, hear me out here. Bruce Bochy, this is what bad organizations do. They go, okay, we're trying to get better. We're trying to get better. Let's get a guy who has a name, who's won championships. Okay, yes, he's going to help. He's going to help develop a little bit. I think he can help develop players, and I think that's one of his strengths. But at the same time, he is a guy who is not going to listen to the analytics. He is not going to go where baseball is going, and I think that will be a little. It's going to be a leash on this team. They're going to be able to go pretty like to a certain point, but they're not going to be able to go over that edge because that leash is going to yank back on them. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's great to see him in baseball, but I don't think it's as scary as what a lot of people are saying on the Twitterverse or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a guy that is not moving with baseball. He's kind of going against the grain. And hey, maybe I'm completely wrong and it'll work out fine, but I really don't believe it will because, like I said, the Giants team that we had last year that won 107 wins, and by all means, I was telling my wife this the other day, we were a 500 team. We won 81 games this year. Like, if you looked at our roster, you probably would have been like, maybe not 81 games, maybe less. But because of what they did last year, maybe they'll win more. I don't know. That's all I'm saying is let's pump the brakes on it. I think you actually
Mm-hmm.
will be a little bit more surprised at how this won't work versus how it
Yeah.
would work.
I think just to quickly put a pin in this because we have a follow-up question, not related to baseball, but a topic we didn't get to. But a lot of what people don't understand too is the roster that we had with Bruce Bochy was a lot stronger and it had more depth, and that was including in the championship runs. We had a top 5 starting rotation, and then we had young Brandon Crawford, young Brandon Belt. We had a lot of young pieces, and Buster Posey during that time when Bochy was with us, and that led to a lot of success. Now in the latter years, obviously not so much, but injuries, COVID season, fill in the blank. There's just a lot of things that ended up happening that just it just was time to move on. He did deliver 3 championships. That I don't think that is something to not remember and always just hold on to. But at the respect too, there was quite a bit of seasons where the Giants fell flat. But again, I will say comparison to what the Rangers have now is their roster is not nearly as talented as what he had in San Francisco for majority of the year. So you may see some better playing baseball, but that doesn't translate in turning around a franchise quite yet, and if he's not going to do the analytics, totally fine. But, let's not act like that he's betraying anybody. And as you mentioned, you're going to find out who Bruce Bochy really is. I mean, he's a serviceable manager, and that's pretty much what Texas is getting. So
yeah, and pitching was a great thing in those championship wins too. I mean, Madison Bumgarner. I mean, you don't really need to say much about him. I mean, we all know what he did was incredible. Tim Lincecum. I mean, he was a 2-time Cy Young winner.
Matt Cain.
Matt Cain. There was Barry Zito at one point. There was Ryan Vogelsong. I mean, there was some really. I mean, Jonathan Sanchez. I mean, there's some really talented pitchers that the Giants had over those years. It's not something to kind of I mean, let's be honest. The Rangers don't have that, and I'm not sure they can get that when Bruce Bochy's contract is almost up. So. That's something that I just wanted to touch on. I'm happy for the guy. I'm glad that he's back in baseball, but I don't think it's going to be as scary as what Giants fans are thinking. I think it actually you may look back on it and be like, well, I'm glad we made the move when we did. So
yeah, for sure.
All right.
So I'm gonna pivot back to the NFL. I'll lead you into this one because you're gonna do the Lakers one for me. So that's why. All right. So we were talking about the NFL earlier, Drew. And so I know we're saying no duplicate. So I don't know, maybe if you have a couple of head coaches in mind, because I have a list of 7 to choose from in the event that you choose a duplicate. Okay. So Matt Rule is already let go. Obviously, we have a ton of other NFL head coaches that are on the hot seat. Mm-hmm. So posing the question, Drew, what other NFL head coach is on the hot seat this season?
I hate that you put me first because I forgot my list. All right.
How about you give me your top 2?
Well, I would say Nathaniel Hackett, but I know he was one of yours, and I think that's just the most obvious one right now, like obviously with Matt Rule being gone. So I'll go with, first I'll say Ron Rivera. Listen, it doesn't look like the Commanders are getting any better. It doesn't look like they're progressing. Obviously, Carson Wentz being down does affect it. Now, Tyler Heineke starts playing a little well. That might save Rivera to the end of the year, and possibly, put Wentz on the bench for the rest of the year. So that's something that I'm definitely very interested in watching because Heineke looked decent last year. I thought he was pretty good. So we'll see. But another another coach that I think a lot of people really, I guess, are not thinking about, but I think is almost a done deal that he's going to be gone, is Frank Reich.
It's a good one.
I am surprised at what is going on. I know the argument is, well, he's had a different quarterback every single year and blah, blah, blah. And listen, I get it. It's hard to win like that. But this is also a guy who is vouching for all of these quarterbacks that he has brought in. So they could have re-signed Carson Wentz. Did they want to? No. It didn't work out. So he went with another quarterback. Went with Matt Ryan. So far, not great. He had one really phenomenal game so far. In how many they've played? I think they've played 5 or 6.
5 games, I think.
Okay, so it hasn't been great. And unfortunately, that defense, they lost their defensive coordinator to the Chicago Bears, and that defense doesn't look the same. I mean, they're not fantastic. They're not these just beast of a defense to stop how they were able to stop the run or able to stop the pass or whatever. They haven't been great. So I think Frank Reich, unfortunately, is probably going to be gone. And I do think that Ron Rivera is more than likely. It doesn't matter how this goes, unless on the off chance that the Commanders make the playoffs. I think he's done. I don't think it matters how many games they end up winning. If they don't make it to the playoffs, I think he's pretty much done. And another coach I will bring up, just because I actually have been really on this for a couple of years, but haven't been bold enough to say it. But Matt LaFleur, I haven't seen it with him. to me, I always questioned it when you watch the Packers and they constantly went to Devontae Adams, and it was like, okay, there's a time and a place to go to Devontae Adams, but you can't go. You're going to him 20 times. Everyone knows you're going to him. He just got lucky that he had Aaron Rodgers with him as well. And now he still has Aaron Rodgers, but he has no receiver. Even if they get like a Chase Claypool or a DJ Moore or an OBJ, I don't think that this offense is all that great. Like, I think Aaron Rodgers is literally the lifeboat of the Packers offense. If it's not for Aaron Rodgers, we've already seen Jordan Love. He hasn't improved 1 inch since he's gotten to the league. And at first I was like, oh man, this guy's a complete bust. But now you look back on it and you're kind of like, maybe LaFleur is a bust. Maybe he's not good at developing guys, because for some reason they draft receivers in the 3rd and 4th round and they never develop that great. I mean, the only thing you have is Aaron Rodgers, who kind of helps them out. And then you talk about the Jordan Love thing. Their offensive line is constantly injured, and you can say, well, okay, that's not head coaching, but the head coach kind of usually goes with the trainer. And the training, I just think the staff really needs a complete overhaul. The defense hasn't looked great either. I think they're probably the best position or best unit on this team is that defense, to be honest. And I don't think it's that good. So Matt LaFleur, I don't think will be fired, because I do think the Packers are going to be in a playoff push. But Ron Rivera, I do think is going to be fired. Frank Reich, I do think is going to be fired unless he lights a fire under the Colts. But LaFleur, I think, is something to watch for.
Yeah. I'll give you a couple of them. So I've already earlier this year have said Cliff Kingsbury, I think he's gone. Clearly they didn't. I mean, they had a pretty good Thursday night football win against the Saints on Thursday, of course. But, majority of the season, they don't look very good. They don't look ready to play. They don't look organized. So I think Kingsbury, he's gone. They're going to choose Kyler over Kingsbury, which I think is rightfully so. I think Kyler Murray he doesn't need a buddy. He needs someone that's going to set him down, talk to him like a professional, and get the best out of him. Sometimes players need that. I don't want to call it an alpha in a negative way, but they need that solid leader that's going to call them out and put them in the best position and better them. I don't know if Kingsbury is that coach, in my opinion. So I won't say Kingsbury. I have Ron Rivera as well. I'm agreeing with you and Nathaniel Hackett. If the Broncos don't improve, I think he's out. But there's 2 coaches that I'll give you. And one of them is only contingent on if they don't make the playoffs. I'll only say that if they get in the wild card or make a playoff spot, I think this coach is safe. But if they miss the playoffs, I think that this coach is out. And that's Brandon Staley of the Chargers. And here's why, is because he arguably has the best defense he's ever had since he's coached this team. He has arguably one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the entire league. You can say it is the offense. Maybe it is Justin Herbert not willing to throw the ball, which, our resident Charger fans from the back seat, they always point out Justin Herbert, for some reason, just doesn't feel comfortable throwing the ball down the field. I just think, though, that Brandon Staley is on the hot seat. Like, if he does not get them into the playoffs, I think all of his going for it on 4th downs are going to be all for nothing. And, he lost a pretty big game against the Jaguars earlier that kind of epitomizes like what he was trying to do. And this team, in all intents and purposes, should make the playoffs. And a lot of people had them potentially being in the Super Bowl. That's how highly touted this team is. But I think if he doesn't get in the playoffs, it's because the next coach, I think, that's going to take over before it's all said and done is Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton would walk through that door in a heartbeat because his old offensive coordinator, Lombardi, is on the Chargers. And I think Sean Payton, having basically all those weapons that the Chargers do, he would fit right in there, in my opinion. And that's my personal belief on why I think that's all going to take place. again, this is all contingent on if Staley does not get them into the playoffs. If he gets them into the playoffs, that plan just kind of goes out the door. My second one, and I'm actually kind of sad and I say this just because I'm a huge fan of this coach, but it'd be Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin, he's had a non-losing season his entire coaching career, but he has missed the playoffs multiple seasons. And last season was only different because the Raiders knocked the Chargers out, which catapulted the Steelers to get into a late season run. But nevertheless, though, I think in the 16 seasons Mike Tomlin has coached the Steelers, they have missed the playoffs more than half of that time. Granted, he has not gotten them in a losing record, but I heard an analyst say this, that Steeler fans don't like mediocre. They don't like just enough. You're supposed to get into the playoffs. You need to compete for championships. So to just be 500 and say that that's a successful season is not good enough. And I tend to agree. Now, I don't know who the Steelers would have to come in for them. But I have a feeling, though, that with the whole Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, the whole fiasco that's going on, I think that's going to kind of play a part into it just because, Mike Tomlin is known to get the best out of players, but this team doesn't look like it's hitting its full potential offensively or defensively. And I know defensively they're injured right now, but it just doesn't seem like that they are at the level that Tomlin usually gets them to. And I'm not sure what that is. I know that Brian Flores is now on the team, so he's helping in that aspect, but I don't know how much longer Steeler Nation could accept just a 500 winning season, but no playoff berth and be okay with that. So it saddens me because I'm a huge fan of Mike Tomlin, but I think that he's unfortunately on the hot seat if something doesn't come out of it. And the way that his Steelers are playing, I don't even know if they're going to be 500. I hope so, just because that's normally what happens. But if they don't get into the playoffs and they're under 500, I don't know how much longer Tomlin lasts. So,
yeah, unfortunately, I'm with you. Some good ones. I mean, Brandon Staley. Listen, I think they're gonna get into the playoffs, so that's kind of why I didn't want to say his name. But I agree with you. I mean, some of his decision making has been questionable. Hasn't been fantastic. I mean, it's been one of those things where you're kind of like, I mean, I guess. And I think he's benefiting from the team that he has, which he has not really assembled. It's really the GM who's kind of assembled this, and it's like, all right, just make that work. And the head coach is like, I'm kind of in over my head here. So, which, I mean, the game against the Broncos, I mean, they should have mopped the floor with them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Now, that Broncos defense was playing lights out. There's no question about that. But no way should that have been a 16-13 game in overtime. Like, it should not have done that. I mean, Herbert is way too good. And that defense. I mean, that defense shut down the Broncos. I mean, there was no question about that. But we'll see. I mean, I maybe Staley is not confident in Herbert, or maybe he's not a really good guy and trying to get Herbert to take that next step. I don't know what's going on, but it is a little concerning. So I agree with you on that. And then the Mike Tomlin thing, yeah, I think it's been great for a lot of these years. They've been, if not in the playoffs, like, they have a chance every year. And it just, the last few years, it's been this team. I mean, last year they barely got in, and it was just because the Raiders did not want to let the Chargers in. Which, the right move. But yeah, it was very interesting. So I agree with you on those. All right, Cody, let's do this one real quick. Let's talk about some NBA. The Lakers are 0-2 right now to start the year. We're big Lakers fans. So what is going on in La La Land, Cody?
Shooting is non-existent. It doesn't exist in the world of Lakers. And it's unfortunate. It's apparent. Westbrook went 0 for 11 from the field, 4 assists. I think he just had measly 2 points. The game against the Clippers, they showed some fight. They showed some life in them. They came back in the second half and took a lead heading into took a lead in the fourth quarter and really got the Clippers on their heels. I will say, though, they were trying to get Kawhi Leonard in shape because he wasn't even in the starting lineup. So I would even argue that's not even the Clippers at their full strength that they were competing against. They got basically ran out the gym by the Warriors. I know that you were saying, at times they looked pretty good. It wasn't as bad as what people saying, but by the third quarter, towards the end of it, game was in the bag. There was no competitiveness. I mean, the Warriors cakewalked it all the way to the end of it. I think what's frustrating is, yes, Lonnie Walker is a really good addition. He's a good young player, good spark. I like Reeves. I think he's really good. I'll be happy to see Dennis Schroeder back on the field. I think he's serviceable. I like him as a distributor, and he's really good at scoring. LeBron, of course, is doing LeBron things. He's still averaging 30-something points at his age, 20th year in the league, which is impressive. Anthony Davis looks a lot better. He looks kind of like 80 of old. I just wish he'd stop shooting these 30-footers. He needs to get to the basket. It's driving me nuts, but it's still our shooting. I know that we had a bunch of trade proposals to get Russell out of LA to get some shooting around LeBron, which is how we're going to be successful. We didn't do that. And I'm all for trying this Russ experiment. If he comes off the bench, I think that would be very beneficial to him. I think Darvin Ham tried that in the preseason, and I know that Westbrook made a comment that that's why he feels like he pulled his hamstring, and he's probably right because it goes outside of his routine, whatever the case may be. But nevertheless, though, this Lakers team is almost as bad as they were last season. It's almost like nothing changed, which is sad because I really do like some of the additions that we've made.
Yeah.
But I think I get more frustrated each year to review, to just even think about what we gave up for Russell Westbrook, And again, I think what I get frustrated with remembering is this was LeBron's idea and AD's idea to bring Westbrook into the fold. It did not work, and now we are stuck with this, and we are holding on these two measly first-round picks that are 4 years in the future. God only knows what they're going to develop into. At this point, I'm almost willing to sell them for anything just because they're not useful now. Our team is pitiful. If you were going to sink the season, do it, because we don't look like a team that's I said last week I felt like we were a play-in team. We don't even look like we are the second best or second worst team in the West. We look absolutely like we are going to be dead last in the Western Conference with the way that we're playing.
Yep.
Will we win? Yes, I think LeBron James won't let that happen. But I think for the sake of the Lakers and Westbrook, we need to part ways with him. And it needs to happen relatively quick before the season gets too out of hand. Because I think early on, maybe even in November, it's plausible that we could make a move and then grind it out the rest of the season. But, I think I heard from Adrian Wojnarowski, he said the Lakers season could be done by Thanksgiving. That's how dire this situation is. If they don't get rid of Westbrook by that time and they don't make any drastic improvements, their season could be done by Thanksgiving. And that's hard to hear as a Lakers fan because we are about championships and playoffs, and it's sad in the state that we are in, that we are wasting LeBron's last few years and paying a lot of money for Westbrook and AD to be not in the playoffs. So,
as you said, I watched the Warriors game, and at halftime they were pretty much in it. It was kind of going shot for shot, and that was good. So I was encouraged. I unfortunately didn't get to watch the second half, and now I'm kind of glad I didn't because it was apparently really, really bad. So I tried to watch a little bit of the Clippers game. Well, I unfortunately wasn't able to watch the Clippers game, but I was like, following the highlights and trying to watch, plays on, everyone posts a play or whatever, and you're just watching it and you're just like, I don't know, they're I think they are better than they are last year. And I know that's hard to hear right now because we're 0-2. But listen, we played the defending champs, and then we played arguably a deeper, better Clippers team. I have no problem in saying that. So I have no problem losing to those teams. I think those teams right now are better than we are. But as I look at our offense has looked better than it was under Frank Vogel. I do think Coach Ham has really done a good job on our offense. Now, our shooting is horrible. There's no question about it. There's no way around it. You can't say, oh, the roof was open. It was.
I wish it was
bad.
open. It might have helped.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? You're right. Westbrook's got to go. But right now, I think the issue that the Lakers have put themselves in, there's no question about that, is they're not building the team around LeBron James. That's the issue.
Mm-hmm.
You're building the team to just put names in the roster, and you're not thinking of it how it's going to work. Russell Westbrook never works with LeBron. Never. Russell Westbrook has to have the ball in his hand. Why do you think KD left? KD left because he was done with Russell Westbrook, because KD wants the ball, but Westbrook wants it too. It's the same thing. When he went to Washington, that's why he thrived in Washington, was because he actually was able to have the ball in his hand. Dennis Schroeder is kind of the same way. As much as I like Dennis Schroeder, he has to have the ball in his hand. He's not going to help the shooting if he doesn't have the ball in his hand. LeBron should have the ball in his hand. LeBron is one of the best passers I've seen in the game since like Magic Johnson. And LeBron is a guy who can be your point guard. Stop getting point guards. Stop getting these guys who have to have the ball in their hands. Get a Buddy Hield. I know he's out of the league, and I can't think of like all these shooters right now, but like a guy like a JJ Redick would be good. Guys who don't need the ball in their hand, just will catch and shoot, like a Joe Harris. I mean, I would be okay if we haven't ended up getting like Kyrie Irving, like for a Russell Westbrook trade. If we can get Joe Harris in that, then I'm all for it. Or a Seth Curry. Someone like that. We need a guy who can catch and shoot, and we have none of it. And Anthony Davis is so afraid of getting injured because we've constantly made fun of him for it that now he won't even pound it inside anymore. He's settling for all these shots, and he keeps shooting threes, and it's like, dude, you've never been a great three shooter. That's never been your game. Yeah, you might take like 5 of them and you hit 2 of them. That's all we needed you to do. But now he's taking like 8, 9, 10 shot and threes a game, and it's like, dude, that's not your game. That's not what we need you for. And now he's not getting the rebounds. So they have not built this team around LeBron James. They've built this team to appease LeBron James. And I feel like, yes, LeBron wanted, Melo, wanted Westbrook, wanted AD. AD works with him. Honestly, Melo works with him because Melo is now a guy who doesn't need the ball in his hand constantly. But Westbrook is not a guy who fits that. Schroeder is not a guy who fits that. Beverly and Walker are good signings. Why? Because they can hit an occasional 3. They play defense, but they don't need the ball in their hand constantly. They work. Westbrook doesn't. You have to get rid of him. It's time to get rid of him. I agree with you. The first overall, or the first picks, 4 years from now is ridiculous to hang on to right now when you're this bad. Like, I know they want to hang on to it for a special player, but it's like, it's time to do something. You don't get a guy who needs the ball in their hand. Get a guy who can shoot. I mean, I know this will never happen, but like, even if they went after like a Draymond Green, because I know there's been kind of flirts with that, like he at least would fit with LeBron just because he doesn't need the ball in his hand. He's going to play defense. Now, is that going to help them scoring points? No, it's not. But what I'm saying is that makes more sense to go after Draymond Green than to keep Russell Westbrook. It makes zero sense to have Westbrook on your team. Westbrook would be great in Washington again. He would do well. Honestly, like San Antonio, he would work, but I don't think what's his face Popovich would like that at all. But like teams who don't really have a guy, I think he would really thrive. I mean, heck, Sacramento might use him well, but I think they I think they're going to want to keep the ball in Keegan Murray's hand a little bit. But
and De'Aaron Fox, because he can shoot the ball.
I'm just saying, there are teams who could use Westbrook. I don't think Westbrook is washed. I know he went 0 for 11 this in the second game here, but honestly, he used to take like 40 shots, 35 shots a game, and he would be at like 30%, but everyone was like, he got a triple-double. He had, 10 points or he had 20 points and 10 rebounds and you're like, yeah, he shot the ball like 43 times. Like only 20 points. It's not great. but it worked for him. And it worked for that team, and he needs to go to a team that could use that skill set. So, unfortunately, I like Russell Westbrook. I wanted to see him work. Unfortunately, he's not, and I think it's dumb that the Lakers are continuing to hold on to it. And I saw a report the other day where it was like the Lakers might hang on to this a little bit because there's going to be people who are going to want to tank for Wembanyama, and will be willing to take on Russell Westbrook, but they're just going to have to wait until those teams are ready to do it. So
yeah.
All right, well, that is it for us. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We appreciate it. I shouted out Fanatics earlier, but I did not shout out SeatGeek, and I'm going to do that now. Go check out SeatGeek. All right. They are, first of all, I want to thank them for being partners with us. And you can use the promo code that you can see on below under the screen, or it's in the description of the episode, either on the video or on whatever podcast you are listening to this on. It is Drew Code. That is the promo code. I know it's hard to remember, but you can get $20 off of your very first order. That's $20 off of your first order by using that promo code if you spend $50 or more on your tickets. So go check it out. There are a ton of concerts that are happening, a ton of comedians who are traveling, and of course always sporting events. So go check out SeatGeek. Go get your tickets. $20 off is worth it. Let me tell you, that is definitely worth it. I was saying it last week. I'm going to a concert in November, and I wish I would have known about. I wish we would have had this for SeatGeek, because I would have gladly taken the $20 off. But that's all right. I feel good about supporting the band no matter what. So anyway, so go check them out, and we thank SeatGeek, and we also thank Fanatics, as I had mentioned before, and also our partners over at fnxfitness.com, or FNXFit. I always do that. I say fitness. It's fnxfit.com. It is FNX Fitness. And we also have a promo code where you can get 15% off of your whole purchase by using our promo code. And that's with any purchase. It doesn't have to be your first time. Doesn't have to be your last time. Doesn't have to be your fifth time. Drew Code 15 is the promo code. So go check that out. Always have the workout gear and the workout supplements. They do sell out fast, as I always say on here, and I'm not joking. They really do.
Yeah.
So go get it quick. Go check them out quick, and put it in your cart, and then, maybe take like a couple of minutes to really think about, okay, do I really want this or not? You're going to say yes, and then put in the promo code, and you'll get 15% off of your purchase. And I just want to say, go subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're not watching it already. How dare you? But we always put out great content on there. We put our videos on there, and like I said, subscribe, like all the videos, comment on the videos. We always want to hear from you. Also, on our social media sites, which we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And also TikTok, and a lot of our TikTok videos do end up on YouTube as well. So if you're on YouTube, then you're going to be like, oh, how come these videos are so quick? It's because we're making TikTok videos as well. So go check all that out. And wherever you are listening to on the podcast, subscribe, rate, and review. Anything and everything does help. If it is a 5-star review, let us know what you enjoyed about it. If it is a 1-star review, let us know what you didn't like so we can bump that 1-star up to a 5-star. And all those major podcasts, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, all those. But pretty much wherever you get your podcast from, we'll probably be on. So, I'm going to throw it over to Cody because I'm done talking. And I think I covered all of what I normally do, but I will let you finish it up.
Yeah, you did a really good job. You got everything. So just to recap, SeatGeek, use our promo code, get $20 off your first order. Go to FNX Fit to get 15% off your purchase there. And also, too, I just learned that they have launched a live program is what they call. And what FNX Fit is doing is with every purchase, they are donating a portion of every item that is purchased from your order and donating it to countries in need to get them clean drinking water, which is phenomenal. And the reason why it's FNX Fit is because they get their acronym from Phoenix, like Rise of the Phoenix. So that's a little thing I learned not too long ago. And I thought the program that they were instituting with getting clean water was a really cool program to get involved with. So all the more reason why you should be purchasing some workout supplements or gear from them and donating to a great cause at the same time. And would be remiss if we didn't talk about Fanatics one more time, and we appreciate them for being partners. And again, what Drew had mentioned, all the links, promos, all that good stuff is in the description below. Next week, we should be having an epic collaboration with From the Backseat podcast, fellas. They should be on next week. Both of them, not just one, but both of them. So this will be the first time that the four of us have been on screen outside of the live stream we had for the Home Run Derby, which was a lot of fun, by the way. But it should be really, really fun. I mean, especially post-NFL reactions are going to be insane. Hopefully the Padres don't get eliminated by the time we record. So it should be a ton of fun. So definitely be a part of that. When you subscribe to us on YouTube, turn on notifications. That way you're notified when we go live so you can join us and interact and all that good stuff. So follow, like, share. We appreciate you guys for listening and watching. We'll catch you guys next week. Drew, thank you so much, man. I will probably polo you literally in the morning. So, yeah, I mean, this isn't goodbye. This is I'll see you later. So. Yeah. All right, everybody, be well. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.